Welcome everyone to the Redesigning School Counseling webinar for Renewal Schools. The topic of this webinar is preparation for your school counseling program that you will be putting in place next year. My name is Sue Reynolds and I am president of the American Student Achievement Institute. So as always, as you're listening to this webinar and have questions afterwards, please feel free to contact Debbie Howell. Debbie is our strategic planning specialist for RSC, and the phone number where you can reach her is on the screen. And then also you can send an email to howell@asainstitute.org. And you're familiar with Debbie. She is the person who has been reviewing your submissions as you've been sending them in throughout the year and providing you feedback with them. So real pleased to have Debbie on board, and please feel free to access her. I would think of her as another member of your steering team. So today's agenda will begin like we always do with a quick overview of the RSC beliefs and the process. And then we'll focus on this month's activities. So basically, we need to look at surveying your students. Very important that we do that once again so that we can get the most recent follow-up data as you've been implementing your programs. And then we'll look at activities to be implemented specifically in March and April, and then the submissions and rubrics. So let's begin with that review. So very quickly, RSC beliefs. Again, in RSC, we believe that school counseling programs help students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. And this is just another way that we say that we believe that when students are engaged in sound guidance and counseling programs, that they will make better choices in areas that impact achievement. So as we've been designing your school counseling program this year, we've just taken that pyramid and worked it backwards. So we started out with the achievement goals that were in your school improvement plan. And then we said, okay, in order for our school to reach those goals, what choices do kids need to make? Choices like coming to school or turning in homework or not punching somebody when they're angry. Choices like enrolling in rigorous classes. So we defined what all those choices were with the input from your advisory council. And then we also kind of prioritized those choices, and we came up with some priority goals or the choices that we really wanted to focus on as you designed your school counseling program for next year. And then the final step was the last thing that you've done is you've designed guidance activities that would help students gain the knowledge that they needed to make those choices. And then you also designed counseling activities to help students address any social or personal issues that were getting in the way of making those choices. So we've got kind of the program design. We've got the academic goals that we're trying to impact. We've got the student choice goals that we want students to make. And then we've got the activities, both guidance and counseling activities in place that will help students make those choices. So everything's kind of in place now. And so now we need to look at the step that comes next. So again, if we're looking at our diagram of the vision to action process, we started out the year by getting ready. We met with your advisory council to update your vision. We did your goals. We expanded resources and hit your priority goals. We looked at what's getting in the way, your root causes, and then the last step that we did was activities. So again, just kind of another way to say the same thing. This is the process in a little bit more detail. So today we're going to talk about preparation. We'll look at developing guidance lessons. We'll look at your program calendar and make sure it's exactly how you want it to be. We'll look today also at creating an annual budget for to support your program next year. So I'm not seeing any hands up and anybody jumping in with questions. So no. So okay, let's go on. Okay, so today we're talking about preparation then, getting ready so that you can implement the guidance and counseling activities that you've planned to do for next year. So one of the things to prepare for the future is we want to make sure that you've surveyed again. We do have survey data that you did last spring, but we want to always have the most recent survey data that's available. And the survey opens up again on March 15th. So we want to again make sure that all your students are ready to survey so you have the most complete data when you evaluate your programs. So why take the survey that opens in March? One, I just mentioned for the follow-up data, we want to be able to say, are the activities that you've been implementing so far having the desired impact on your priority goals? And then we'll be able to compare that data to survey data from 2017, a year from now, to see if your new activities that you're implementing next year have had an impact over that data this year. So basically we're kind of creating both evaluation data, but this data will also serve as your baseline data for the new program that you're implementing next year. Okay, and then we also will have you look at that data real quickly to see, are there any new root causes that didn't exist last spring that maybe exist now? So you'll be able to look at that data to just tell you, is there anything new that's popped up that we're not aware of? So who takes the survey? Just like last year, it's students in grades 3 through 12 will do the online version, and students in grades K through 2 will do the paper version. And then there is a counselor survey that was actually new last year that asks counselors what opportunities the students have in their school, both opportunities in the school and in the community to participate in guidance activities. So what's on the survey? Same as last year, the question sets ask students about their college and career interests. There's this choices that they're making that impact achievement. That's the most important data for RSC is those student choices. And then the mastery of the guidance standards and the student assistance needs. That's data that helps with the root cause analysis that you'll do next year, and then perceptions of the counselors. So remember that there's all kinds of group reports. You'll be able to disaggregate the data by free and reduced lunch status, race, ethnicity, and several different other ways. And just a reminder about who sees the group reports. You'll see if we start at the bottom that the information about students' perception of the counselors and the student assistance needs or the counseling needs, social personal counseling needs, the only people that can access the group reports are the school counselors. But the group data for everything else, the mastery of the guidance standards, the choices that kids are making in areas that impact achievement, and their college and career interests, that data is available to the public. And that's nice because other groups in the community are then able to say, oh, we can help drive some of that data as well, and can work hand in hand with you on implementing community-based activities to hit some of the same things that you're working on in school. In terms of seeing who sees the individual student results, remember the RSC /Learn More survey has the ability for counselors and colleges to access individual student names. So as a counselor, you could say, give me a list of students who say they get D's and F's on the report card and don't know where to find extra help. And then you could shoot those kids an email about the extra help initiatives that you provide in your school. So, but we wanted to make you aware that the only people that can see individual student responses are the school counselors and the colleges. Nobody else can see those. And in order for the counselor to get that that information, the students have to have signed permission for us to release that information to the counselor or the colleges while they're taking the survey. So just a reminder on that. Okay, survey administration is 30 minutes. Don't forget that you'll need to sign up to get survey codes. You'll see how to do that in the online system. And then also in the online system, when you go to sign up for codes, there's a little kind of calendar or to-do list there to help you think through getting ready to survey. So, for example, step 1 is when are you going to survey? Step 2, who's going to survey? We just kind of help you think through that process. Okay, so survey logistics. The survey setup is in the RSC online system. Then you'll be able to go to that, and because you're will be applying for Gold Star, make sure that you include all question sets. The survey site is there, the results, how to get to them, and then we're also having a webinar. If you've never set up the survey before and you kind of want us to walk you through that and give you some more details about the survey and how to use the results, there's a webinar that we're holding. It's optional for Renewal schools. It's on February 24th. And right after this this webinar, Debbie will send you an email with a link where you can sign up for that webinar if you want to. Okay. Then in terms of the student survey, here are the rubric items. However, if you use the RSC survey, you will automatically have all those things addressed. If you decide to use a different survey, you'd want to make sure that that different survey addresses all these things that we need schools to look at as they are designing their program. Okay, and again, here's some more information. Here's that reminder about that webinar, that it's February 24th, 2:30, and Debbie will send you a link to register. Okay, so one thing I also wanted to give you a heads up about is next year, so you're renewing this year, next year you'll do an annual update, and that is very quick. It's just one meeting with your steering team to kind of say, here's how we're doing, here's what we did first semester, here's new data, your 2017 survey data, and based on this new data, do we need to tweak anything? Chances are your advisory council will say everything looks good, steady as she goes, let's just keep implementing the plan that we have. But this gives them and you a chance at least once a year between the renewal years to kind of check in and look at your system. We will be doing one webinar with you next year, and I just wanted to get that on your radar. And that is scheduled for May 2nd, 2017. So we don't have the registration up for it yet, and we won't until next school year. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that when you finish your renewal year, that does not then mean that you have 3 years before you do anything else. We'd like you to check in and look at new data and tweak your program at least once a year. And so this is where we'll be training you to do that next year. So just want to get that on your radar and on your agenda for next school year. Okay, so let's talk about the tasks that you'll be working on in March and April. And I think the easiest way to do that is just to go to the online system, and we'll do a quick walkthrough. Okay, so let me pull that up. And I'm demonstrating today with Clinton Prairie Elementary School site. Clinton Prairie has been working with the university in Chicago to help the grad students there and the professors there become familiar with the RSC system. As you know, RSC is available at no cost to grad students as well as to any school anywhere. And so it's kind of a nice way that Clinton Prairie and Stephanie have kind of reached out to professors and grad students in Chicago. So pretty cool. So at any rate, okay, let's scroll down here, and we're going to the March-April tasks, and here is that section in the process page. There's a couple of edits that we're going to be making later today to this page, and I'll kind of give you a heads up where those are. So in March-April, First step is to watch the webcast that we're recording right now. So the archived version of this webcast will be located here. Then step 2 is to enter lesson plans. So I'm going to click on enter, and we'll kind of walk through how to do that. So first of all, the current lesson plans that you have will be listed here. And what you want to do first is to delete any lessons that you're not planning to do next year, or edit any, and you may need especially to go in and edit the dates where you plan to implement those lessons. You can click the report icon to pull up a copy of those lessons. So we want to first of all clean up any lessons that you're planning to not do, and then change dates and rework the wording on anything that you want to kind of tweak a little bit in the lessons that you're going to carry forward. And then in the next step is to add any new lessons that you want to recreate. And just as a reminder, to do that, you would go to you would do two things. One is that you can import lesson plans from other RSC schools. So if I click that tool, there's hundreds of lesson plans in here, so you can just type in career interest inventory, and I don't have any idea what I'm going to get, but hopefully there's some schools in here that are doing that, so I can just see what they're doing. So I click career interest inventory, and there are 5 lessons plans that other schools have put in. Actually, I'd forgotten this. There's one that I put in here. So, and then the other thing that's kind of interesting, if you want to kind of see how others what others think about some of these lesson plans, you can look to see how many schools have imported it. So here's one that Mississinawa High School did, but you can see 6 other high schools imported this. So my guess is that this lesson plan is probably pretty complete and well written. And so you can just kind of look through, and here's another one that was done at a preparatory school. 6 schools imported it. So so that gives you a way to kind of it gives us a way to kind of have your peers evaluate different lessons, but also you to find ones that other people thought were pretty good. So, and again, if you find a lesson, let's say you're looking for a career interest inventory lesson, and you find one you like, rather than starting from scratch, you can just say import into my school's lesson plans, and that will take that lesson, pop it into your guidance lessons, and give a reference to the initial author. So, okay, so that's one way to get new lessons in. And then the other way is to just start from scratch. So I'm going down here to step 3. I'm going to click enter. And now here are blanks where I can just develop my lesson plan that I'm doing from scratch. Don't forget that on the selecting guidance indicators, you would just click select guidance indicators, and here's all the indicators, and then you would check the ones that this lesson is going to address. Okay. So pretty simple. So in that step, we're cleaning up and adjusting your lesson plans. And I'll go back to March, April. In reviewing the annual calendar, this is one of the places that we're going to tweak a little bit this afternoon. And there will be actually an enter edit button here. And what you'll do is when you click on that enter edit button, there will probably be just one question that pops up, and that question is going to say, after reviewing your annual calendar, do you feel that you have the time, resources, and energy to implement all of the activities that are in the calendar? So we just want to give you one last chance to say, oh my gosh, this is totally overwhelming, I can't do all of this. Because once you create this program, the expectation is going to be that you're going to deliver the program. So we want you to check here. If I click on report, I can see that here's all the activities that are planned for the year. So I just want to look through and say, okay, can I really do all of these? Okay, so that's that step. Then on the funding part of this, this line here, number 4, this is actually this afternoon going to come out, and then where you'll go to is enter your budget or a funding proposal. So you have to do one of those things. If you have a budget, you would click on this enter edit icon. That will take you to a template for your budget, and you can just see, that the school has written what they've, what they're planning to purchase in the coming year, and then the amount of funding that's going to take. And when you open this, your budget for the past year is going to be in there, so we want to make sure that you've changed that to the 16-17 budget. Okay? Okay, then if you don't have a budget, then the requirement is for you to write a funding proposal. So that could be a funding proposal to your principal or to your local community foundation or to a local service club, asking for funding that can support your program. And if that's the case, you're going to use the uploader button, and you can just send us, upload a copy of that funding proposal letter or memo or email or whatever you've got that will show us that you've proposed, that you've requested funding from someone. So you're either, if you have a budget, you're going to tell us what the budget is. If you have funding already, if you don't have funding, you're going to show us what you've proposed to whoever. Okay, so one other step that's not in here that we'll put in here is the step to give the survey in March, and so that will be in there as well. Okay, then in the rubric, let's go to that real quickly. And there's some things we need to really look at closely there. On the lesson plans, you can see that there are a lot of expectations for those lesson plans. The schools that are seeking RAMP and Gold Star need to make sure that you've done all of these. And so here's what everybody's looking for. We want to make sure that there are 3 academic lesson plans, 3 career lesson plans, and 3 personal social lesson plans. Sometimes there are lessons that hit on 2 of those areas. So there are maybe a lesson plan where you hit both career development and academic development. If so, I would judge which academic area, or I'm sorry, which of those 3 areas is the most prevalent in the lesson plan and count it as that. So in other words, there are no twofers. You need to turn in 9 lesson plans, and we need to be able to, it needs to be kind of clear which one is an academic, which 3 are academic, which 3 are career, and which 3 are personal social. Okay, and then also we want to make sure that the lesson plans include the appropriate grade level, the student groups that are set, the setting, that would be, is this a lesson plan for a lesson that's done in the classroom, or is this group counseling or whatever? We want to make sure that the lesson plan has been associated with the guidance indicators, includes a summary, includes time required, it includes clear and concise procedure, an evaluation, what resources are needed, and citations when that's appropriate. But the nice thing is that if you've used the RSC system to create those lesson plans, you will have entered all of those things. So as long as you're using the RSC system, all of these things will be present. You just need to make sure that you've got the 9 lesson plans. Then for your group counseling lesson plans, this is one we always have a lot of questions about. A lesson plan is present for each group counseling activity. So if you're doing a group and there's 8 lessons that are part of that group, then we need to make sure that there is a lesson plan for each of the 8 lessons. That's an ASCA requirement for RAMP, and so we need to make sure that you've done that. Also, the group counseling lesson plans need to describe the focus of the group. So is this a group that's dealing with truancy or um, um, whatever. So what's the focus of the group? We need to know the number of students participating and the name of the school counselor or counselors that are facilitating the group. So again, these are some ASCA requirements and DOE requirements for both Gold Star and the ASCA Ramp Award. Then, for all of your lessons, so the group or your classroom guidance lessons, the other thing we want to know is we need to identify at least one of those lesson plans that is a closing the gap lesson plan. And the way that you'll do that, so first of all, a closing the gap lesson is a lesson that's designed specifically to target a group of students who are making a choice at a lesser rate than their peers. So you may be looking through all of your data and you see, oh my gosh, my free and reduced lunch kids turn in their homework at a lot lower rate than their peers. So how can I target one of my lessons so it's specifically hitting the free and reduced lunch kids to start to close that guidance gap? So the way that you'll do that in the system, let me go back real quickly. I'm going to go back to the lesson plans. When you're inputting the lesson plan, to show that it's a gap lesson plan, when you are creating the lesson, when it says targeted students, you would say, okay, this is targeted to my free and reduced lunch kids. Now, that does not necessarily mean that the lesson, excuse me, that the only participants in that lesson are free and reduced. It just means that when you've designed the lesson, you've designed it in a way that it's going to reach the free and reduced lunch kids more than other kids. So let's say that you decide to do some kind of lesson on homework completion, and you invite 40 kids to participate in that lesson. It's something you're going to do maybe over lunch, and you've invited these 40 kids to have lunch with you. You've gotten a sponsor to provide pizza, and now you're going to talk about how important it is to complete their homework. And of those 40 kids, 30 of them are free and reduced, and 10 are not free and reduced. That's fine. So you're targeting free and reduced lunch kids in that group because there are more students in that population that are participating that are free and reduced. That's fine. And then you're also probably thinking, well, how come free and reduced lunch kids don't turn in their homework? And maybe you're having some discussions with teachers and your advisory council about, what is it about free and reduced that maybe makes it harder for them to turn in their homework? And so, if you have used that information in designing this lesson, then that definitely makes this a guidance gap lesson. So, okay, but the way you indicate that this is a guidance gap lesson is in the lesson plan, you'll pick the student, whoever it is, Hispanic or free reduced lunch. You can also say it's a locally defined group, and then you could say, okay, this is for students who haven't done whatever it is, haven't, I don't know, this is for students who got sent to the office for being aggressive in the last semester. So you can define your own group. And again, it can be a guidance lesson group or a group counseling group. You would just define it. Okay, so that's how you do that. Let's go back to the rubric. Okay, so that's that. And then on the annual calendar, the time and energy required to implement activities that appear on the calendar seem to be reasonable. You will have already told us that you think it's reasonable, but we want Debbie to kind of look at that too to see if we see any red flags, and if Debbie is thinking, oh my gosh, how is the one counselor in this building going to implement all of that? she may call you and say, you know, are you sure? But I mean, you're the final call. So if you say, yeah, we're sure, then you're sure. But we're just going to kind of look over your shoulder on this one. On the other hand, if you tell us that you're doing, that you spend 90% of your time on activities that are guidance and counseling in your time use logs, and that, you know, then we see that you're not implementing any activities, hardly any guidance activities, as we look at that calendar, you know, that's another thing that Debbie may call and say, you know, what's up with that? And, you know, there's really kind of a mismatch there. We know you have lots of time to work with kids and parents, but we're not seeing any activities. What's up? So we're just kind of looking for that to make sense. And again, you know, we're an outsider kind of looking at it, but if anything pops into our head that this doesn't make sense, we may call and just kind of chat about that with you. And then your budget or the funding proposal, we're just kind of looking at that last one, that's present. And then the rubric that's not in here yet is the rubric on the survey, and that will just be basically that the survey, you know, was given. So kind of the same rubric items that we did last spring when you gave the survey last spring. Okay, I think that is it on that. So let's go back to the process page. So those are the activities for March and April. I do want to give you a heads up about these May activities. And these are kind of like May, beginning of June activities. Most of these things you will have in place already. It's just a matter of tweaking it or documenting it. So you're going to, you know, update your job description, update your individual counselor management agreements. These are things that you could do right now if you know, kind of want to get a head start, or they are things that you could do in May, in April. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is the May activities are not contingent upon the March-April activities. So if you wanted to do them now, you can. During our webinar in May, we'll go over all of these with you and give you some tips and stuff, but no reason to hold back if you're, you know, have time now and you'd rather do it now than in May when the end of the school year gets kind of busy. Okay, that's it. Okay, and then finally, in March, April, don't forget to submit an email to Debbie to let her know that you're ready for her to review these things. Again, our goal is that there's no surprises at the end of the year, that we've been kind of reviewing and nudging and coaching and mentoring all through the year so that everything is like ready to all set for Gold Star and Ramp at the end of the year, as well as you'll have a wonderful school counseling program for your kids. So, okay, I think that is it. Let me go back, see if there's anything I've missed and what I plan to do. Yeah, that's it. So very good. So thanks everybody for participating. As always, don't forget to call Debbie. Please use her. And again, I would think of her as a member of your steering team. If you need somebody to bounce an idea off of, you know, just say, what do you think of this? Or, you know, could you eyeball this and, you know, tell me if I'm going in the right direction? Please call Debbie. So, okay, that sounds good, and I always like to leave you with this thought to remember that you make a difference in the lives of the young people that you work with in your schools. Thanks so much, everyone.